Good evening and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am DM Bluddworth, and as you can see by the graphics, and I am as surprised as you probably are seeing this on my channel. Um, I have been very much opposed to Wizards of the Coast and their what they've been doing with Dungeons and Dragons moving forward, and really for quite some time now. And I literally had no intentions of seeing this movie. However, I'm also a firm believer that, family always comes first. And I do have a niece who is a fan of role playing, and she's a fan of Dungeons and Dragons. She is actually the recipient of my 5e core rule books. I recently handed those over to her, and she's up here in New York from Atlanta, and Alexandra is her name, and she wanted to see this movie, and she knows that my birthday is coming up at the end of this month, and she wasn't aware that I had no intentions of seeing this movie, and so she has an Amazon Prime account, and she said, "Hey, this upcoming weekend, after we go visit my mother, um, that she'd like to go to the movies with her father, my brother, and myself, and to see this early viewing or special viewings of Honor Among Thieves." So I have an ulterior motive, because I love the fact that she's engaged in this hobby that I really enjoy, and I'm a big fan of Dungeons and Dragons. Um, I'm just not a big fan of Wizards of the Coast or Hasbro, or even Fifth Edition. And certainly not what they're looking to do with Sixth Edition and their VTT, and so on and so forth. But I shared with her when I gave her the books, almost 2 weeks ago now. When I gave her the books, I showed her showed her the fact that they're all first printings. So I gave her the DMG and the Player's Handbook and the Monster Manual, which she didn't have, even though she had been running games. And I've told this story several times, that in her group, everyone has just like one Xerox copy of it, and they just pass them around. So now she's happy to actually have the physical books in her hands, and so when I gave it to her, I told her, "Listen, these are first printings. There are some names like the RPG Pundit and Zach Smith that is in the first player's handbook that you can no longer get anymore. So that book in particular is going to potentially be a collector's item, and the fact that those are three sequential books all in the same printing, that they may be worth something sometime down the road." Now, she's a production assistant for an anime company in Atlanta, Georgia, and so her participation in the hobby, I think, is pretty assured to keep on going forward. And my ulterior motive in this is to eventually bring her over to the OSR. And so not only am I going to continue to encourage her engagement in this, but I will keep on looking for various products down the road, for her birthday and other things like that, to give her other gaming materials to further encourage her to move away from 5e and or 6e, and go to some of these other game systems that I think that she would enjoy probably much more than what 5e has to offer. So I know that's a buckle. I know it's partial hypocrisy or whatever, and I will own that. But what I'm going to do is, when I do watch this movie, I'm already going in. I'm trying to wash away any um, ill perceptions of the movie. so that when I'm sitting there, I want to just kind of sit there and watch it with fresh eyes. Now, before the whole disaster that was Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast, December into January, um, before that whole thing took place, I was anticipating that this movie was going to be entertaining. I never anticipated that it's going to be very much a D&D movie, and I haven't heard anything coming from the producers of this movie that leads me to believe I'm going to have a positive impression of it. Um, at least with what they're looking to do with it, from emasculating the lead male characters to not really understanding, some of the content of Dungeons and Dragons, and they kind of just utilize the rule of cool rather than actually having experts on scene to actually tell them, no, that's not really something that a druid can do, or you know, um, I don't look at the 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 stat blocks that they released on D&D Beyond as being character sheets because they're using basically monster stat blocks. Most of the characters do not have a class, they don't have a listed race, and they're all using a D8 for for their hit die type. So they're using monster stat blocks basically, and you cannot recreate these characters using the 5e rules. And I'm sure that they're going to try to give the movie some credibility by altering the future, play tests of 6e in order to incorporate what this movie is kind of doing. So I think that they will kind of haphazardly do that. But again, I want to go into this movie expecting that it's going to be minimally an entertaining movie. And once I've seen it, I will do kind of a recap of the movie and try to remain as general as possible. So I'm not going to look to spoil anything about the movie other than just giving my overall impressions of whether or not it was truly a D&D movie. Was it just a high fantasy sword and sorcery kind of caper type movie that that I'm kind of expecting it to be, or if it was something different. I mean, if it really does come off to me as being a well balanced and really good rendition of a Dungeons and Dragons movie, which we've never had, to be honest, then I will certainly say so. But if it's a steaming turd, I'm going to say so as well. So I'm just not going to go into detail of why I thought it was really bad, um, or why I thought it was, it exceeded my expectations with specifics. I'm not going to go into specifics and spoil it for anyone. And then I'll leave it up to you whether or not you're going to go see it, or if you were going to go see it, I don't want to taint your views on, what your expectations are for it. So I know this video is going to be fairly short. I anticipated to just put it out there that be on the lookout um, for some content around uh, Honor Among Thieves, which, like I said, I was not intending on seeing this movie, but I just can't say no to my niece, and I do want to encourage her to continue within the hobby, and I do want to encourage her to continue with Dungeons and Dragons. I'm just going to try to turn her to the light side and turn her over to the old school D&D and other game systems. I mean, when Shadow Dark comes out, I'm definitely going to buy her own copy of Shadow Dark and pass that on to her, because I think that she'll really enjoy that. Being an artist herself, she will really appreciate, I think, the artwork that is in that as well. So So that's basically it. Like I said, I wanted to keep this fairly short and and to the point. And so there we have it. This video will actually release sometime tomorrow, and you enjoy the rest of your weekend. And as always, I look forward to seeing you on the gaming screen sometime soon. I'm waiting to hear other people's impressions of the movie following Sunday. I think Sunday is the day that most individuals will actually have an opportunity to have seen the movie, and so I expect that those will come out fairly fast and furious, starting with that. So you all have a great evening. Take care and keep on gaming out there.